A lot of people talk about how the Souls games retrain you on how to play video games. They retrain you on how to think about character death, enemy encounters, resource management. But I want to talk about how Bloodborne showed me that we should expect more from choice making in video games. Disclaimer, this is my first Souls game, so I can't speak authoritatively about the series as a whole. Nor am I sure that what I'm talking about hasn't happened in other Souls games prior to this. But that's fine. This is just my personal experience with the game. And I'm also in the middle of my first playthrough, so some speculations and suppositions that I have about what the game is like after this moment I'm going to talk about could turn out to be totally wrong. Having said that, let me tell you a story. I'm in the Forbidden Woods. I come upon an old man on his hands and knees above 2 or 3 freshly slain bodies. And as I approach, I hear what sounds like chewing, which alarms me. But as I get closer, I startle him, and he stands up with a jolt. It seems very afraid, turns around, and says, "Don't scare me like that. I thought you were a monster. There are all sorts of monsters out here." And then he thanks me for killing another beast on the road, which he said that he was also afraid of. I began to dismiss my early notions and alarm that I felt. Here was this old man who was surely scared of being alone and what seemed like injured. He has a bandage covering his eyes. He needs assistance. He clearly wants help. He asks me for a safe place. He asked me if I knew there was a safe place. And as people who have played the game know, up until this point in the game, there's a mechanic in which you usher a few NPCs to Odin Chapel, where they'll be safe from the beasts during the night. And this was another one of those instances. You have the choice to tell the old man to go to Odin Chapel, or to go to the clinic, or you can tell him nothing. And I chose to tell him to go to the chapel, because he was telling me he needed help, and he seemed afraid. That was a part of my decision-making apparatus. But the larger part was collecting more NPCs, getting more in-game rewards for that. Well, the next time I warped back to Cathedral Ward in the chapel, one of the NPCs that I had told to go there was dead. The skeptic, the man who refers to your lying breath many times. Where he had been sitting was just a bloodstain, and the blind person who originally asked you to bring people to Odin Chapel was distraught. They were sure it was their fault, and they didn't know what happened. Sitting outside of the chapel, away from the incense, was the old man from the Forbidden Woods. He was thanking me. I put 2 and 2 together, of course. Realized that he had killed the skeptic. And when I attacked him, sure enough, he revealed his true form as a beast. I approached the choice of whether or not to tell him about Odin Chapel like a gamey choice. The shallow sort of moral choices that games so often throw at us so that we can achieve some kind of reward for playing our characters as absolute saints or the vilest of sinners. This actually turned out to be rather different than that. Right? This was a choice to either listen to my instincts, to my initial appraisal of the situation, or ignore that in favor of being fake nice, of making a false and shallow moral choice to receive in-game rewards. Now, while the former might seem to lack some compassion in the context of the game world, it's actually choosing the latter option that reflects most poorly on the player, and certainly did me. I was approaching it as if it was a mere system to be gamed. In the end, Bloodborne punished me for framing its choice in the wrong way. The skeptic is permanently dead, and I won't get to experience his character anymore during this playthrough of the game. But this consequence is so worth it, because now I will approach making choices in this game very, very differently. I'll see them as tests of my observation and deductive reasoning, which not only echoes the nature of the game's combat encounters, which are themselves tests of your observation and deductive reasoning, but it also is a more accurate reflection of actual choices we make. And that sounds a lot more exciting and potentially rewarding than pressing X to be fake nice.